Then add a 3-inch layer of green material like kitchen scraps. Cover that with a 2-inch layer of brown material like dried leaves. Add a thin layer of finished compost or garden soil as activator. Then repeat these layers until your pile reaches 3 to 4 feet tall. Water each layer as you build until the material is moist like a wrung-out sponge. Within 2 to 3 days, your pile should heat up to 130 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit in the center. This heat kills weed seeds and disease organisms while accelerating decomposition. After you are spending $300 a year on fertilizer and soil amendments, your plants are still struggling with yellowing leaves and poor yields. And the reason is not that you are using the wrong brand or formula. The reason is that you are feeding your soil dead synthetic chemicals instead of building living soil the way nature has done it for millions of years. Every time you drive to the garden center and load another bag of fertilizer into your cart, you are paying for something that your kitchen scraps and yard waste can produce for free. The fertilizer companies know this, but they have convinced you that plants need their products. That soil cannot be fertile without chemicals. And this is a lie. Plants do not need synthetic fertilizer. Plants need living soil filled with organic matter and beneficial microorganisms. And when you give them this through proper composting, they grow stronger, produce more, and become naturally resistant to pests and diseases. This is not some modern gardening trend. This is how John Seymour built soil fertility for decades using a composting system that costs nothing to set up, transforms waste into black gold, and doubles your harvest without buying a single bag of fertilizer. The composting system works on 3 material groups. You need carbon-rich browns like dried leaves, straw, cardboard, and wood chips. You need nitrogen-rich greens like kitchen scraps, grass clippings, and plant trimmings. And you need activators like finished compost, garden soil, or animal manure that introduce the microorganisms that break everything down. The ratio matters because too much brown material creates slow cold compost that takes years to break down. Too much green material creates a slimy anaerobic mess that smells terrible and attracts pests. Here is where most gardeners fail with composting. They throw everything into a pile with no structure, no moisture management, and no turning. Then they wonder why their pile sits cold and unchanged for years. Or they build elaborate expensive bin systems that make turning impossible. Or they obsess over exact ratios and scientific measurements, turning simple composting into complicated chemistry that paralyzes them from ever starting. The truth is that composting is not rocket science. You need 3 things. You need a good mix of browns and greens. You need moisture like a wrung-out sponge. And you need air circulation through regular turning. Get those 3 things right and decomposition happens automatically because billions of microorganisms are programmed by nature to break down organic matter. The 3 laws of successful composting are simple. Law 1 is that size matters because a pile smaller than 3 feet cubed will not generate enough heat for hot composting, while a pile larger than 5 feet cubed becomes difficult to turn. 3 to 4 feet in each direction is the sweet spot where heat builds quickly, turning is manageable, and decomposition happens fast. Law 2 is that moisture must stay consistent like a wrung-out sponge throughout the pile. Too dry and decomposition stops. Too wet and beneficial aerobic bacteria die, replaced by anaerobic organisms that create terrible smells. You test moisture by squeezing a handful of compost. A few drops of water should appear but not a stream. Law 3 is that turning introduces oxygen that aerobic bacteria need to thrive. Turn weekly for fast hot composting or monthly for slower cold composting. Here is what this system really means. It means you are not buying fertility. You are building it. When you buy a bag of synthetic fertilizer, you are renting temporary plant growth that disappears the moment you stop paying. But when you build compost, you are creating permanent soil fertility that improves year after year as organic matter accumulates and soil life multiplies. Seymour writes that nearly all country people made compost because they understood that soil fertility does not come from bags. Soil fertility comes from returning organic matter to the earth. Synthetic fertilizers only feed the plant, not the soil. And over time, soil structure collapses, beneficial organisms die, and you become completely dependent on chemical inputs just to grow anything. Here is exactly how to build a compost pile that produces finished compost in 3 to 6 months. Start by choosing a location that has good drainage, partial shade, and easy access from both your kitchen and garden. Clear a space about 4 feet square directly on the ground because you want soil organisms to move up into your pile. Begin with a 6-inch layer of coarse brown material like small branches to create air channels at the bottom. After 5 to 7 days, the temperature will start dropping. This is when you turn the pile by moving material from the outside to the center and from the center to the outside, mixing everything thoroughly. You repeat this cycle every 5 to 7 days for the first month. After that, turning every 2 to 3 weeks is sufficient. After 3 months of hot composting, your pile will be dark, crumbly, and smell like rich earth. You can use it immediately by spreading 2 to 3 inches over your garden beds. For cold composting, you build the pile the same way but turn it only once a month. Decomposition takes 6 to 12 months instead of 3, but still produces excellent compost. What can you compost? All fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells, bread, pasta, yard trimmings, grass clippings, dried leaves, straw, shredded paper, cardboard, and manure from herbivores like chickens and rabbits. What should you never compost? Meat, bones, dairy products, fats, oils, diseased plants, weeds with seed heads, pet waste from dogs or cats, or anything with pesticides. These materials either attract pests, create terrible smells, or contain toxins that harm soil life. Here is what the numbers actually look like. A family of 4 produces about 200 pounds of compostable kitchen scraps per year plus hundreds of pounds of yard waste. When you compost this instead of throwing it away, you create roughly 50 to 100 cubic feet of finished compost worth $300 to $500 if you bought it bagged. That compost applied to 200 square feet of garden beds will double your harvest compared to unfertilized soil because plants in compost-rich soil grow faster, produce more, and resist stress better. Here is the transformation that happens when you transition from synthetic fertilizers to compost-based soil building. In the first year, your soil structure improves noticeably. Water penetrates better and plants develop stronger root systems. In the second year, beneficial soil organisms multiply exponentially. Earthworms appear in numbers you have never seen, and your plants become visibly healthier with deeper green leaves and thicker stems. By the third year, your soil holds moisture so well you water half as often. Pest and disease problems decrease because plants in living soil resist attacks naturally, and your harvests increase dramatically. The composting system is not about being an expert or having special knowledge. It is about understanding that fertility does not come from bags or bottles. Fertility comes from returning organic matter to the earth and letting nature do the work of transformation. Every kitchen scrap you compost instead of throwing away. Every pile of leaves you transform instead of burning. These are deposits in a fertility bank that pays dividends forever in stronger plants, bigger harvests, and independence from the fertilizer industry. So start today by choosing a spot for your compost pile and collecting the materials you already have. Layer browns and greens, add moisture, and build your first pile. Turn it weekly and watch it transform from garbage into black gold in just a few months. Spread that finished compost on your garden beds and observe how your plants respond with explosive growth and abundant production. Because the moment you stop buying fertilizer and start building your own soil fertility, you are no longer a consumer dependent on products. You are a gardener working with nature to create abundance from nothing but waste, time, and the ancient wisdom that fertility comes from the earth and must return to the earth.